Amazingly, 3 out of the last 4 videos that I've posted have been taken down. 3 of the last 4. In addition to that, due to the last video that was taken down on me, my account is dangerously close to being banned. The thing is, this is my main account, and it's also where I create all of my videos, so it presents a pretty big problem for me until I can find an alternative. Folks, I'm still puzzled as to why so many of my videos are being taken down now, but I have a pretty good idea. Remember, I have more than enough proof to back up the things that I say in them. Guys, check out this comment that was left by a person who couldn't find anybody to convince him that this stuff was actually real until he met me. Please, listen people. This man knows what he's talking about from real actual experience. He's not guessing or just repeating something he heard somewhere. Thank you for clarifying things for me, G. You're a real one. My response to him was, thank you so much, my brother. It was a pleasure sharing my proof with you. I commend you for taking the time out to look at my stuff. I wish there were more people like you. God bless you and your family. Now you have some people who believe that the best thing to do is to get the target to stop talking. But that's really not the solution, and it's not a good idea, because when you silence a target, you actually put that target in more danger. This is mainly because targets are conditioned to see things that quote-unquote normal people cannot see. With that being said, I do have to be more careful with the way that I'm delivering the message. In other words, I have to watch the things that I'm saying due to the threats to my account being banned. If you paid attention to the reckless driving videos, the conditioning that I'm talking about would have been apparent just by watching me anticipate those reckless driving incidents. And it would have become even more apparent had I been allowed to show more clips. But because of the recent threats to my account being shut down, I have to stop with that type of footage and information for now. With that being said, complete silence is just not an option at all. Now, as you guys can see from this list that I put up before, the second item is excessive flashing lights, which I have plenty of examples of already on social media. And in those examples, the conditioning that I'm referring to is even more apparent than it is in the reckless driving. Because not only do I anticipate those, but I actually call out where they're going to take place. The reason for this is because these things occur in repeating patterns. As I stated before, they're not random and they're not coincidental. Now, because I have examples of the excessive flashing lights and other weird light patterns on social media already, there's no need for me to show any more of that footage at the moment. So instead, I'll skip over that second item for now and go to the third item, which is attacks on my career, and show how this high-level spiritual attack, the name of which I have shown at the top of this page, has negatively impacted them. Being that the goal of this very sophisticated spiritual attack is to paint a picture of the target as failing in all areas of his life, it should be no surprise that my career and finances are under attack as well. Regarding the spiritual attacks on my career, there's just too much information for me to cover in just one video. So my goal for now is to touch on a few key points and then go more in depth in future videos. For starters, consider the fact that I have worked for one company for 25 years and I retired from there, which means I can do it. I have done it, and that type of stability is what's consistent with my track record. Well, folks, since my targeting started in 2017, it's now become a challenge for me to hold on to a job for 25 days. In fact, this particular job that I'm working right now is the 4th company that I've worked for this year in 2025. And the company that I left to come here did not want me to leave. And that's usually the case with most of the jobs that I've had. But since this type of spiritual attack seeks to cause constant instability in all areas of the target's life, it's not always a problem at the job that causes a target to have to leave one company and go to another. In saying that, I have to say this. Just because I did 25 years and retired from one company, it doesn't mean they were 25 smooth years. No, there were some rough patches there, which many people experience. Many people go through drama in the workplace. It doesn't mean that the person's not good at what they do or the person's not doing their job. There are countless different reasons why a person can experience turbulence in the workplace, and I will get into those in coming videos. As I approached the end of my career there, in other words, as I was closing in on 25 years, the drama there increased exponentially. This was the beginning of my targeting. Now, being that this is a spiritual problem, which I've stated many times before, the problem ended up following me from job to job to job. And since 2017, when my targeting started, I've lost track of the amount of jobs that I've gone through. Again, it's not consistent with my past work history. Some people may think that when a person says that they're a target, that person is just looking to make excuses because their life took a bad turn. That's not the case at all, especially when the person was doing well before. The concept of targeting is actually biblical if you know where to look. For example, David had to flee from Saul, who tried to kill him because Saul had become jealous of David's popularity. David also had to flee from his own son, Absalom, due to a rebellion within his own family. Another example of a biblical target is John the Baptist. He became a target when he condemned King Herod Antipas's marriage to his brother's wife, Herodias. John the Baptist was beheaded for that. The prophet Elijah was targeted by Queen Jezebel. Consequently, that's where we get the term Jezebel spirit. Just in case you're thinking that the first three biblical figures that I mentioned actually did stuff that caused them to become targets, well, this next person is an example of a biblical figure who did nothing that warranted him becoming a target, and his name was Job. Not only was Job a target, but Job is one example of a biblical figure who was targeted spiritually. Again, the Bible is crystal clear on the fact that all of the calamities that Job experienced were caused by Satan. In addition to all of that, Job actually referred to himself as a target in Job chapter 7, verse 20, and chapter 16, verse 12. And of course, I've saved the best for last, the most well-known target in all of human history, our Lord Jesus Christ. And we're all familiar with his story. Jesus was targeted in just about every way imaginable, including spiritually. The main difference between Jesus and the four biblical figures that I mentioned previously is that Jesus is the only one on this list who was targeted from birth. He was targeted as soon as he came out of the womb. So as I stated before, the concept of targeting is biblical, and I have a lot more to say about how it's affected my career as well as everything else on this list, but I'll do so in future videos. Thanks for watching, guys, and God bless.